Today, we'll be taking a look at how Alabama-based Combat Motors took a solid block of aerospace-grade aluminium and turned it into something that should be ridden by RoboCop. We've never seen a bike design like this one. The solid fuselage and CNC'd one-off parts used in this creation are simply unbelievable. So racers, start your engines and let's get to know this roaring T-Rex of a bike. Alabama-based motorcycle manufacturer Combat Motors clearly does not mess around. The company's vehicles are inspired by a raw, rebellious spirit it calls the American way, resulting in creations that are equal parts brutish and dashing, rolling art pieces with historical flair. Those philosophies are ever present in the brand's second-generation combat fighter motorcycle. A large part of the look comes courtesy of the monocoque frame assembly that forms a sort of exoskeleton while replacing areas normally made from sheet metal and tubing with billet aluminum. That's right, folks, each one of these rides starts out as a 1,500-pound chunk of aircraft-grade aluminum, and the factory mills and machines away everything that isn't a combat motorcycle. Is it the most practical way to go about it? Probably not. But there is simply no substitute for quality, and nothing says strength and quality quite like billet. A 7-inch backbone stiffens the assembly and serves to contain the 3.75 US gallon fuel tank, for a look that brings to mind the old strap tanks of yesteryear. This muscle bike has fuselage plates located near the bulkheads that stiffen the proprietary monocoque. The new model incorporates a chassis with an intake box that ties directly into a CNC aluminum downdraft intake manifold. The fuel tank is meant to bridge to the induction system, where the swing arm pivot is machined into the engine case. Each front suspension girder and rear arm are made from solid blocks, as well as the fixed axis that optimizes structural integrity and fatigue resistance while minimizing unsprung weight. A total of 61 editions of the Combat Fighter are scheduled to be made in both blonde brushed aluminum and anodized black. Now, for the best part, the monster living under the bed. At 2,163 cc, the 56.25-degree V-twin mill is the biggest kid on the playground. The air and oil-cooled lump runs in a balls-on-square layout with a 111.76mm bore and stroke, and uses 3 cams and 4 push rods to time the 2 valve heads. Induction control falls to a pair of 51mm throttle bodies with Delphi engine management, and it all rests atop a billet crankcase with a forged one-piece crankshaft. The power figures are really remarkable for an American V-twin. At 5,100 revolutions per minute, it cranks out a respectable 145 ponies, but the 170 pound-feet of torque comes on at an astonishingly low 2,000 revolutions per minute. To put it in perspective for you, that's just above idle speed. So this plant has some real testicular fortitude, to be sure. That's plenty of grunt, well measurable on the Heine dyno, I have no doubt. A multi-plate dry clutch couples the 5-speed transmission to engine power, and a chain final drive makes the final connection to the rear wheel. The transmission itself runs in a stacked configuration that reduces the length of the gearbox, and the factory uses Andrews gears, a name associated with quality drivetrain components, to crunch the ratios. At the top end, this engine and tranny will get the ride up over 165 miles per hour, way faster than most of us need to go, and definitely enough to add stupid fast to the categories this bike qualifies for. This power hike was achieved through new cylinder heads designed with an innovative air induction system. The strongest part of the frame at the headstock area incorporates an intake box that leads the air through a structural downdraft manifold, an industry first according to Combat. At its highest point, the air filter element is housed in a canister-shaped box with transparent sides. The same see-through design is used for the fuel tank, which is located under the seat and is embodied in the rear part of the central beam of the frame. The front suspension is based on newly designed girder architecture with a fully adjustable shock absorber. In the rear, the layout is different compared to the P120, as the single shock is no longer centrally located, having moved to the left side of the brand new swing arm. Braking is handled by French specialist Beringer, which supplied the 4D Aerotech kit coupled with radial calipers. Thankfully, the seat has also grown from the Walkman-sized cushion of the P120 to a saddle with a surface area approximately the size of an iPad mini, no doubt an improvement. Combat Motors tapped Beringer for brake components to tame the bike. Up front, we have a pair of 230mm discs with 4-pot radial mount calipers, and in the back we see a single 240mm disc with a dual-pot caliper. Wheel weight is kept low through the use of carbon rather than any sort of metal alloy, and these rims come wrapped in Pirelli yummy goodness with a ZR19 Night Dragon hoop up front and a fat ZR17 Diablo Rosso in the back. One thing is for sure, whether you love it or hate it, you have to admire the guts it takes to stake your business on such radical designs. It seems to be working well for Combat Motors. You can't argue with success after all, and honestly, this is just the kind of small enterprise that created the US motorcycle market in the first place. With only 17 models left at this time, I expect the factory will be releasing information on its next project soon, and I can't wait to see what Combat has in store for us next. So let's take one last look at Combat Motors' T-Rex of a bike.